My name's Hannah and I am 25 years old and live in Mount Maunganui. I am the founder and director of Real Rad Food, a company that was born, I suppose, 4 years ago. We started out with just doing rad balls and slices, but have since diversified into some supermarket products, in particular rad ball mixes and also a protein powder. But yeah, it's been a wild ride, but it's been a lot of learnings and a lot of fun so far. For me, I had like a specific date where the business sort of went from just being like a foodie Instagram page to being like, I'm going to try and turn this into a business and monetize it. So I quit my job and I went full time into the business like on a certain day. And that day happened to be 1st of April. So it was the start of a financial year, which was great. And it meant that I could set myself up as a sole trader and create a bank account where all of my business transactions were being held. So that was made it a very clean change and made the taxes for that first year in business a lot easier for my accountants. And it also means that we now have data from 4 years of trading. There was no like, oh, I was getting income coming into my personal account and then some coming into the business account. Like it was very clear cut, which was awesome. In saying that, we had to, if I were to go back, I would probably have set ourselves up as a limited company from the get-go. But, you know, foresight is an amazing thing. And I didn't really think that I didn't really want to be paying GST if we weren't going to be over the threshold and that sort of thing. But we ended up being there. So I had to then switch all of it's a big process essentially to get all of your clients that are paying to this account to a new limited company account. And like that did require a bit of navigation. But at the time when I first started, I had no idea that things were going to go the way they did. So yeah, that was really the only thing that I wish that I did differently in the very beginning. But setting myself up as a sole trader and with that bank account made things really clear cut and the data very accessible for us now. I think that an accountant, you're going to need one regardless, whether you're making $20,000 or $60,000 a year. But so that is really important. And I think setting up a relationship with an accountant, even if they're just doing your end of year financials, which is what they 100% have to do for you, well, you have to get those done in order to pay your tax, which is very important. Even if they are just doing that, they will be able to tell you certain things that you can do to make the accounting bill at the end of the year smaller and your life easier. For example, using a system like Xero may be beneficial for you. Keeping receipts or using Xero again to take photos of your receipts and uploading it onto there. So, because I remember in my first year of business going back into this like big filing thing that I had, and I just like gathered all my receipts over the year and none of them were in chronological order. We had to like just pull the whole thing out and just like pick them all up. It was terrible. So now for me, everything is electronic, and Xero has been an amazing tool in order to keep things that way. So when I receive invoices from my suppliers, I email them straight to Xero. So they're all getting collated in like a bills account. And then I just batch pay those things. So, but being totally honest, like our efficiencies and our accounting side of things have only really come in about in the last year. Like it does take, well, I hope that people listening to this may not leave it 3 years like I did and face a lot of the time that it takes to try and sort your life out at the end of the financial year. But definitely, yeah, using things like Xero and talking to your accountant about what they think that you should do throughout the year in order to make your end of year financials less costly, A, and B, taking up less of your time. So important. And I was around, I knew of people that had sort of spoke about their companies as like look-through companies, and a look-through company was something where you essentially just everything, you put all of your personal expenses through your business account. And I think it's a bit of an old school way of doing things, but I just can't stress enough how important it is to take weekly drawings or whatever you need. But like, if you're going for a coffee with friends, do not tap your business account, because you're going to have all of these transactions that you have to justify, and you have to provide some sort of remittance of what that was for, whether it be entertainment, you're on a meeting, whatever. I would just really, it's so important to separate those two so that you're seeing exactly what your business is actually doing as well. You don't want all your personal stuff to be coming out of your business, because you actually want your business to be looking like a profitable and well-run business, no matter what your goals are, because that's what a bank's going to look at if you want to get some debt, or an investor's going to look at if you're wanting to raise capital, or a purchaser's going to look at if you're wanting to sell your business one day. So it's super important that you are setting your business up in the best way possible and in the most true to what it's actually doing way, in order to really paint a realistic picture. The way that I did it, it feels like a lifetime ago now. I think that first thing I did was call IRD and told, like, they're very good with helping you out, because, you know, they want people to be paying their taxes correctly. I called them up and I was like, right, I currently work in a cafe. I just finished my degree and I was like working in this cafe. I currently work in a cafe, but I'm about to quit my job and I'm going to start this business. What do I need to do? And they essentially walked me through the process of setting up a sole trader account. And I'm pretty sure on that phone call, they were like, you need to set up a business account for this IRD number, because the business account, your bank account has an IRD number attached to it, essentially. So I did that, and then can't really remember the chronological order of the series of events that came after that. But what I would do in retrospect is call up IRD, tell them sort of what you're doing, figure out whether you want to be a sole trader or a limited company. Go to the bank, say, I need to set up a new account for the company name. Or, so for example, Real Red Food Limited is our company name. When I was a sole trader, it was, what was it, like Real Red Food Sole Trader Hannah Mellsop or something like that, I don't know. And that's what the bank account will be called. And then you can, it was Hannah Mellsop trading as Real Red Food is what it will be if you're a sole trader, I'm pretty sure. Probably find an accountant, and there's plenty out there that specialize in small business. So those guys are going to be really onto it with not charging you like, you know, the big four will charge you. There's a place for the big four, definitely, in established companies, but I think that finding a private accounting company that deals and has a clientele of small businesses can be really beneficial, because your accountant can also open up their network of people to you. So you're like, I'm really struggling with getting frozen distribution. They're like, oh, I have this client who does that and he uses this person, I'll introduce you. So accountants are not only great for making you pay your tax and taking your money, but also if you get a good accountant, they can be really good with helping you along your business journey, whether that be, you know, advisory stuff or just gaining access to their network of people. Anyway, so I would try and find an accountant. I would see what they say in terms of the best way to go about things to make your end of year financials run smoothly. That might be signing up for Xero, but Xero does have a monthly fee. So it just depends where you're at, how much revenue you're bringing in, and what your model sort of looks like. If you've got a lot of bills coming in and you're invoicing out a lot, definitely Xero is an amazing tool, but you may be doing something totally different that doesn't require that. So it is going to vary industry to industry, but having a conversation with an accountant should help to clarify that. I reached out to a few other small businesses that I knew, and because I was so nervous or anxious about the tax side of things when I first started my business. I was just like, oh my goodness, like I don't know any of this sort of stuff at all. So I was very hyper aware of and everyone when I started the business was like, make sure you've got enough money for tax. Like, and I was just like, oh my gosh, I could have I could say I would save everything because I was so concerned I wasn't going to have this money for like this massive tax bill that everyone made it out to seem. And so it made me very frugal, which in retrospect was really good. And I'm still like that because of how scarred I was from what people were saying about taxes and accounting. But I reached out to, there's just a lot of, I was being surrounded by a lot of small businesses at the local markets that we were going to. And I was talking to some of them being like, so like, who does your accounting stuff? And they were like, oh, we use, you can just reach out to people like that. And they've probably got someone who is specializing in a small business accounting financial realm. So that's what I would recommend to a small business who's just starting out. But otherwise Google and talk to them, be like, I'm doing this and I need help with this. Is this something you can help me with? And they'll say yay or nay. Well, I've had 2 accountants, and I, being totally honest, probably have a Zoom call with a new accountant once every quarter, because I don't know, accountants are like relationships. They can work for like a certain amount of time and then you like outgrow them, or you're just like, I'm needing more, or I'm not. So you may need more from someone and they're not providing you that advisory level that you want, or you may be like, this accountant just doesn't really understand my industry, which is really important. For example, I'm in the food industry. It's very important that we are across certain I guess key performance indicators in terms of financial stuff. And then there's things like, you want an accountant that's on the same page as you in terms of like your marketing efforts and all of that sort of stuff. So for me, it's like I'm always looking and always having conversations with new accountants to feel it out. Like I'm essentially cheating on my accountant, I suppose, but don't feel like you have to stay with one. It's not going to cost you any money. And it's going to be like a little bit niggly, like you still got to break up with them and then like go switch all your stuff to this guy. But that's where Xero comes in handy, because you just give someone your login and you're good to go. But if they're not the right fit, find someone else. It's not a big deal, honestly. And I've done that already twice, and I'll probably be doing it again this year. Yeah, and I think there's the side of accounting where you just hand all the information to them and they do your financial accounts and at the end of the year and tell you how much tax to pay. But for me, 4 years on, I'm at the point in the business where I want like high level reporting on how we're going every month. I want advisory information on where we can improve with our gross profit X, Y, and Z. I want a lot more, and it costs a lot more. And I definitely was not at that point in my first 1, 2, 3 years of my business, but we're there now. And that's why I think that growth always requires change, and that counts to your accountant too. Yeah, it is really important, and it's something that I should do more. I'm sort of a believer in like the universe, and people come into my life at the right time and they're supposed to be there. But I do think that there is value with getting out there more and, going to events that are business focused, asking your accountant to introduce you to X, Y, and Z people. And I'm also a firm believer in that you should always answer the phone, because you never know who's going to be on the other end of the phone. I have like a lot of friends that just don't answer the phone if it's a random number, but I answer my phone every single time it rings, because you're like, who knows who this could be. So I guess growing your network does require a bit of courage, because you have to put yourself out there and you have to ask the hard questions, and you have to be prepared for people to also tell you what you don't want to hear. And so there's that side of it, but you can gain so many opportunities through just having conversations with people in your industry. And it's also extremely isolating, I think, in business, and having conversations with people and within your network that have ridden the wave that you're on is really helpful along your business journey. So when I first started, I was just like, I didn't really like set them out, write them down, and like have monthly goals in order for me to achieve an end of year goal. But I definitely knew that like profit was super important, like it is for every business. And I'm not a believer in like people saying, oh, you don't make money in your first 3 years of business. I just don't believe in that. And I think that that's like a very old school sort of thing where people just gave themselves an excuse not to do well in their first 3 years of business. But so I really wanted to be profitable from the get-go, and that was a goal for me. Another example of a goal for me when I was in my earlier years was being debt-free and reinvesting all of our profit in order to grow our plant. So we, put down a lot of money into some new machinery in our early third year of business, and we did it totally off the profit that we had made over the first years. And that was like a really awesome moment for me. And it's allowed us to, for example, when we were in COVID and level 4 lockdown in COVID, we were okay because I wasn't paying off this massive debt. We had been really careful and frugal with our money, which had allowed us to grow at a sustainable rate without having to leverage up in heaps of debt. In terms of goals now, I always have I start the year and I know what my figure is that I want to get in revenue and profit at the end of the year. And I work that backwards and I look at how much that figure needs to be every month. And then every month I get we call it a dashboard. And that's just an overview of all of my financial stuff across every single product within the business. So it's a very high level, I guess, accounting reporting paperwork thing. I have an accountant do it for me, but I read it and I analyze it. So that's really important to me now. But yeah, I think goal setting is always important, but I also don't think in your first few years of business to get bogged down by certain numbers or things like that, because you are still figuring it out in your first year, and you still need to be open-minded enough to pivot your business in the way that it needs to move in order to continue growing. And that may mean not reaching your goals, and you don't want that to discourage you from continuing on. You sort of just want to have the bigger picture in mind, I suppose. In terms of like accounting side of things, Xero is truly an amazing tool to use, and it allows you to look at certain generated reports on the accounting software that you don't have to pay someone for, and also make sure that you're getting paid on time and your bills are and you're paying your bills on time. So I do really recommend that one if you feel like you're in a position to subscribe to that. And what is my other? Yeah, I guess being frugal, but also not letting that bootstrap you in terms of being scared of tax, because you don't need to be scared of tax. You just need to make sure that your accountant is onto it and you're onto it with supplying them with the information that they need to do their jobs. Put that money away. For example, I just like a sum of money comes out of my account every month, and it goes to a tax trader's account. And so now when I look at my bank account, I'm like, that's my money. Because in my first 2 years of business, I would look at a sum of money in my bank account and I'll be like, that's cool, but it's not mine because I'm probably going to have to pay it all to tax. And then we would get to like the end of the year and they'll be like, no, that like this amount is yours. And I'll be like, oh, wow, that's cool. I feel so much less stressed. So being in the know with that sort of stuff does allow a clearer mind and a better idea of where you're actually sitting within your own business and within your own financial situation. Yeah, I do also want to say that you, again, going back to the whole separating your personal spending with business spending is just so important, because if you are starting a business and you're wanting to go and get like a home loan, that you really do have to show that your business is making money, and just little things like that is going to help you, have a foot in the door with that sort of thing. So yeah, be as frugal as you can, but don't live a miserable life.